Park Jung-ho died on Friday at 11:47 a.m. Not heroically, not beautifully. He was crossing the road at the intersection on Iljiro, looking at his phone, reading comments under his own post about how life was finally getting better, and did not see the truck-kun that ran a red light. Impact. Darkness. The last thought was absurdly banal. I didn't reply to Mom's message. Then nothing. Then something. Not a light at the end of the tunnel. Not the voice of a god. Just a cramped, damp, dark sensation. The earth pressed in from all sides. Cold, smelling of rot and roots. Jung-ho tried to raise his hand. The hand did not rise. He tried to open his eyes. His eyes opened, but he did not see the way he used to. The world around was blurred, almost colorless. Only shades of gray and faint flashes of warmth where something living moved through the soil nearby. The small body writhed in the darkness on its own, following instincts he did not understand, yet could not stop. He was a worm, an ordinary one, an earthworm. A pinkish-gray worm about 10 centimeters long, buried in the ground at a depth of 3 palms. The first few minutes Park Jung-ho spent in a state that is hard to put into words. Panic is not the right word. Panic implies screaming, movement, action. He had no voice. There was only consciousness, clear, human, 23 years of memories crammed into a body without arms, legs, a face, lungs in the usual sense. He breathed through his skin. He felt the vibration of the earth as sound. He felt moisture as taste. He felt the warmth of living beings around him as a faint glow in the darkness. Then a window appeared in his mind. Not physical, right over reality, semi-transparent, clear. Text drifted before his inner gaze. Evolution system initialization. Host identified. Unknown higher order mind. Creature type, common earthworm. Class F, rank 0. Anomaly detected. Higher order mind in the body of a lower creature. Compensation activated. Innate skill, devouring. Absorbing the body of a creature after its death grants partial or full skills of the target. Effectiveness depends on the difference in rank. The target must be dead or dying. Evolution condition. Accumulate enough evolution points through devouring and survival. Current EP, 0 out of 100. Jung-ho read the text twice. Then once more. Evolution system. Devouring skill. Evolution points. In another life he read Manhwa a lot. He knew this genre by heart. But there the heroes were humans, or at least took human form from the first page. He was a worm. 10 centimeters of pinkish-gray flesh in wet soil. All right, he thought, because thinking was the only thing he could still do properly. Let's start from the beginning. I am a worm. I have a system. To evolve, I need to devour. To devour, I need to hunt. That means I hunt. He moved forward, surrendering to the instincts of the body and at the same time trying to understand the logic of his new existence. The body moved on its own, contracting and stretching rhythmically, like a living spring. Jung-ho merely guided it, like a navigator who cannot drive but knows where to go. After a few minutes, the vibration sense built into the body, without any skills at all, caught a pulse nearby. Something living. Larger than him, but slow. He moved toward it and discovered a beetle larva. Fat, white, almost motionless. It did not have time to react. The skill activated on its own. A sharp sensation of compression, something crunched. It became wet. Jung-ho tried not to think about the details. The notification appeared instantly. Devouring. Target, brown beetle larva, rank 0. 3 evolution points obtained. Skills not acquired. Target too small. Current EP, 3 out of 100. 3 points. 100 until evolution. This is going to take a long time, Jung-ho thought, and crawled on. The following hours, he had already stopped counting time, because underground it lost all meaning, turned into methodical, almost meditative hunting. Larvae, small worms. Something resembling a woodlouse, but with 6 pairs of legs and a faint bluish glow on its shell, clearly local fantasy fauna. From it came the first real skill notification, devouring. Target, luminous earth woodlouse, rank 0 anomalous. 8 evolution points. Skill acquired, bioluminescence, passive, rank F. Faint glow of the skin in darkness. Bioluminescence. Jung-ho was now a glowing worm. In another life, it would have made him laugh. Now he simply accepted it as a fact and continued hunting. At 38 points, the ground trembled. Not faintly, like from small creatures, but deeply, rhythmically. Something large was moving from above downward, tearing through the soil. Jung-ho pressed himself against a tree root and froze. The creature passed half a meter from him. Long, segmented, about 3 times longer than he was. Its heat signature pulsed orange. A notification appeared immediately. Target analysis. Fire Earth Centipede, rank F+. Danger to host, high. Potential EP upon devouring, from 35 to 50. System recommendation, avoid, 35 points. A third of what he needed. Jung-ho watched the fading heat trail of the centipede and made a decision the system clearly did not approve of. He followed it. He did not try to attack immediately. He was not an idiot. He tracked it, observed, studied the pauses, the rhythm of movement, the method of hunting. The centipede killed with acidic mandibles. The chitinous shells of beetles hissed and dissolved at a single touch. Acid, Jung-ho noted. To be caught by its bite meant death. But after hunting, the centipede went still, digesting its prey. The heat signature evened out, slowed. It was resting. Jung-ho waited another 20 minutes. Then he crawled toward the head, not the body, precisely the head, to where the thinnest chitinous shell was, where the mandibles joined the first segment. He remembered from school biology. In arthropods, the head is the most vulnerable place at the point where it connects to the torso. He did not know whether this would work on a fantasy creature. It did. The centipede's body jerked once, sharply, convulsively, then went limp. Acid from the mandibles spilled into the soil, hissing and burning through it. Jung-ho waited it out and began devouring. Devouring. Target, fire, Earth Centipede, rank F+. 47 evolution points. Skills acquired. Acidic saliva, active, rank F+. Secretion of weak acid through the front part of the body corrodes soft tissues. Vibration sense, passive, rank F. Improved perception of soil vibrations, range plus 50%. Current EP, 85 out of 100. 85. 15 points until the first evolution. For the first time during all this, Jung-ho felt something akin to excitement. He gained the last 15 quickly. Several beetles, another larva, and a large earth slug with bright yellow stripes from which came the skill mucus trail, slowing pursuers while moving. When the counter passed 100, a new window appeared in his mind. Evolution available. Current EP, 103 out of 100. Available evolution paths. The system offered 3 options. First, armored worm, rank F+, chitinous shell, increased defense, but speed decreases by 20%. Size increases 1.5 times. Second, venomous nematode, rank F+. Venom glands. Venom paralyzes small creatures. Body becomes thinner and more flexible. Third, devouring worm, rank F+, unique path, efficiency of the devouring skill plus 30%, enlargement of the jaw section of the body, weak exoskeleton on the front part, size doubles. System note, path enhances the host's innate skill, recommended. Jung-ho read the options twice. The logic was obvious. His main weapon was devouring. To strengthen it now meant to gain power faster later. The armored one gave protection, but slowness underground was akin to death. The venomous one was good, but the venom worked on small creatures, and he had already learned to kill centipedes without venom. The third path was the only reasonable one. The third, he directed his intent toward the system. Evolution initiated. Path, devouring worm. Warning, process is painful. Host, prepare yourself. Jung-ho did not have time to finish the thought that the system was warning about pain in text. The pain came like a blow from within. The body began to change in jerks, convulsively. He felt something hardening in the front part. chitin, plates forming from soft flesh. He felt the body lengthening, tearing something from the inside. He felt the front part becoming heavier and denser, and where there had once been just a mouth opening, something like primitive serrated jaws appeared. The process took several minutes that felt like hours. Then it subsided. Young-ho lay in the soil, listening to the new body. Longer, about 25 centimeters. The front third covered with thin but tangible chitinous plates. Small serrated jaws. Present. Bioluminescence slightly brighter. A faint bluish glow along the body. Evolution complete. Current form, devouring worm, rank F+. Devouring skill enhanced, efficiency plus 30%. Next evolution threshold, 500 EP. Current EP, 0 out of 500. System hint, to accelerate accumulation, surface emergence is recommended. Prey on the surface is significantly richer, 500 points, and the system advises going outside. Young-ho raised his head as much as the new body allowed and felt faint warmth above. The sun. The surface was close. He crawled upward. The world above was not the world Young-ho remembered. He crawled out of the soil at the edge of a clearing and froze. Not from fear, but from overload. After the darkness and tightness of the soil, the surface struck all his senses at once. The warmth of the sun through his skin. Not like light, but like pressure. Like a palm pressed from above. The vibrations of air from the wind. A new sensation that had not existed underground at all. The grass was tall. Stalks as thick as his body, stretching upward to an unreachable height. From his current point of view, the clearing looked like a dense forest. Green, dark at the roots, lighter higher up. Between the stalks moved creatures. Insects, but not like those in the world Young-ho had come from. Beetles with shells the color of old copper and 3 pairs of wings that folded like fans. Something resembling grasshoppers, but with short front tentacles and eyes that glowed with a faint amber light. Butterflies with wings like blades. Literally, the edges of the wings gleamed like metal, and, judging by how one of them sliced a grass stalk simply by flying past, were sharp. This is not Earth, Young-ho thought quite calmly, because he had reached that conclusion back underground. This is another world, a fantasy one, and the insects here match it. The system confirmed his observations immediately. New targets detected. Steel-winged butterfly, rank E-, potential EP upon devouring 12 to 18. 3-winged copper beetle, rank F+, potential EP 7 to 10. Amber tentacled grasshopper, rank E-, potential EP 15 to 22. Attention! Host is on open surface, risk of detection by predators sharply increases. Risk of detection by predators. Young-ho had barely read this warning when his vibration sense hit him with alarm from above, from the sky. Something large and warm was rapidly descending. He dove back into the soil a fraction of a second before the ground nearby exploded from the impact. Something sharp, a claw, a beak, passed a centimeter from his tail, scratching the chitin plates. Young-ho burrowed deeper, as far as his body allowed, feeling something enormous stomping on the surface right above him, trying to reach the burrow. Then the heavy steps stopped. The creature flew away. He lay in darkness, his heart, or rather its analog, the ring vessels pumping fluid through the body, beating fast. So that's how it works, Young-ho thought. The surface is rich in prey, but you yourself become the prey. He would have to learn. The next few forays he made short. Crawl out, assess the situation through vibration sense, grab the nearest target, dive back in. The copper beetle gave 9 points, and the skill reinforced chitin, passive, rank F. Hardness of the outer shell plus 15%. The amber grasshopper gave 17 points, and the skill jump, active, rank F. Sudden surge of muscular power, jump distance 3 times body length. The steel-winged butterfly was harder. It flew, and catching it from the ground was almost impossible. Young-ho spent nearly an hour on it, waiting until it landed on a grass stalk, and received 16 points and the skill-cutting crest, passive, rank E-. The host's front chitin plates acquire a cutting edge. By the time the counter passed 200, Young-ho perceived the surface very differently. Not as a threat, but as a territory to study. He knew where the large predator hid, Judging by vibrations, something the size of a cat circled the edge of the clearing. He knew where small prey concentrated, by a large mossy rock in the center where it was warm and damp. He knew the safe retreat routes back into the soil. 3 points, tested and reliable. At 246 points, he encountered for the first time a creature that stopped him. Not a predator, not a monster, a snake, or rather, something resembling a snake, about a meter long, with deep purple scales and 2 pairs of rudimentary legs along the body. Clearly a transitional form, something between a snake and a lizard. It lay on a heated rock, motionless, eyes closed. Its heat signature was even, strong. It was larger than anything Young-ho had encountered so far. Target analysis. Purple-clawed snake lizard, rank E. Danger to host, very high. Potential EP upon devouring, 65 to 80. Target skills presumed. Venom glands, muscular regeneration, thermal vision. System recommendation, avoid, 65 points minimum. Over 250 points remained until the second evolution. That was almost a third. Young-ho stared at the lizard for a long time, measured distance, thought, calculated. Then he made a decision that again went against the system's recommendation. But this time, he acted differently. Not immediately. First, he observed for 3 hours, studying breathing patterns, reaction to sound, speed of movement when the lizard did rise to catch a flying insect. Fast, good reflexes, but on the rock, relaxed. Sunbathing. He used the mucus trail, laying a path around the rock, blocking retreat routes. Then he approached from below, through a crack in the rock, slowly, without vibrations. Acidic saliva hit precisely behind the left front leg, where the scales were thinner. The lizard lunged, but the mucus under its feet slowed it. The first 3 seconds decided everything. The notification was more detailed than usual. Devouring complete. Target: purple-clawed snake lizard, rank E. 72 evolution points obtained. Skills acquired. Venom glands. Active, rank E-. Synthesis of neurotoxin. Paralyzes small and medium creatures for 30 seconds. Muscular regeneration. Passive, rank E-. Slow restoration of damage to the outer covering. Thermal vision. Passive, rank E-. Ability to perceive heat signatures of living beings within a radius of 10 meters, even through obstacles. Current EP 318 out of 500. 318. Young-ho absorbed the new skills. Thermal vision changed everything. The clearing suddenly filled with silhouettes. A bird on a branch 30 meters away, a bright orange outline, a rabbit or something resembling a rabbit, with 3 ears and a short horn on its forehead in the grass 15 meters away. Small insects like scattered sparks, and at the edge of the clearing, what Young-ho had taken for a cat. It turned out not to be a cat. 2 silhouettes. Large, 4-legged, with long tails. They lay still, waiting. They're waiting for me, Young-ho realized. They saw the hunt for the lizard, figured it out. He went underground without haste, slowly, controlling vibrations, not letting the predators determine his exact direction. Beneath the soil, he continued hunting. Now with thermal vision, it was incomparably easier. By the 400-point mark, he felt almost confident. Not in terms of strength. He understood he was still small and vulnerable. But in terms of knowledge of this world, its rhythm, its logic. At 486 points, everything changed. The ground trembled. Strongly, rhythmically, not like from an animal, like from something heavy and even. Footsteps. 2-legged footsteps, heavy, in footwear. Young-ho understood that immediately, because the vibration was different, not beast-like. And voices. He did not understand the language, but he heard them as vibrations of air transmitted through the soil. 2 voices, then 3. Humans, he realized, and the word inside him sounded strange, both familiar and foreign at the same time. He rose to the very surface without crawling out, only to the level where he could see with thermal vision. 3 silhouettes. Tall, bipedal, hot. Humans were always hotter than insects, their warm-bloodedness like a beacon. They walked across the clearing, discussing something. One carried something long, a weapon, a sword, or a staff. The second moved lightly, almost dancing. Light armor, quick movements. The third walked more slowly, and something else emanated from him. Not just body heat, but something diffused around him like faint heat. Magic, Young-ho realized, or something like it. He watched them for a long time. Humans. The first humans he had seen in this world. Something sharp rose inside him. Not nostalgia, no, it was too early for nostalgia. Something like recognition. I was one of you. He wanted to crawl out. Wanted what? To show himself? To ask for help? He was a worm. 25 centimeters of a glowing creature with chitin plates and acid glands. They will kill me, he thought soberly. Or run away. Or kill me just in case. He remained underground. The humans passed within 2 meters of him. One of them, the one with the sword, suddenly stopped. Sensed something. Young-ho saw through the thermal silhouette as he turned his head, examining the ground. A pause lasting several seconds. Then a voice, short, abrupt, and the second voice replied something reassuring. They moved on. Young-ho exhaled as much as a worm was capable of exhaling, and at that moment the counter finally overflowed. Evolution available. Current EP, 504 out of 500. But this time the notification was different. Longer, more detailed. Attention host. Second evolution is a turning point. Available paths diverge significantly. The choice at this stage will determine the base direction of development for the next several forms. It is recommended to choose consciously. Available evolution paths. First, Armored Earth Dragon Worm, rank D-. Massive exoskeleton, 4 rudimentary limbs, limited mobility on the surface. Specialization, defense and brute strength. Size, multiplied by 5. Second, Shadow Nematode Hunter, rank D-. Body becomes semi-transparent. Ability to partially dissolve into shadow. Speed increases significantly. Specialization, stealth and precision strikes. Size, multiplied by 2. Third, larva of a demonic silkworm. Rank D, unique path. The body acquires traits of the larval stage of a higher demonic being. Beginning of transformation toward a humanoid form. External appearance. Worm-like body with budding limbs, dark semi-transparent obolochka, weak demonic pressure. Specialization, evolutionary potential. Next evolution significantly approaches humanoid form. Size, multiplied by 3. System note. This path is chosen once and is irreversible. A host who accepts the demonic larva path will not be able to return to standard evolution paths. All subsequent forms will have a demonic nature. Young-ho read it 3 times. The armored one gave strength and defense, but it was a dead end. A giant worm would not become human. The shadow one gave speed and stealth, a good survival tool, but also not a path to humanoid form. The third, demonic larva, irreversible, demonic nature, forever. But it is the only path to a human appearance, he thought. The system states directly, the next evolution approaches humanoid form. I need to become human, or at least a being capable of speaking, thinking, interacting. Otherwise, I will remain a creature in the soil forever. A demon. He would become a demon, or a demon-like being. In the manhwa he had read, demons were not necessarily evil, just another race, with different magic, a different nature. Besides, he added to himself honestly, I have already killed several dozen creatures and eaten their skills. The question of morality is somewhat overdue. The third, he directed his intent toward the system. Evolution initiated. Path. Larva of a demonic silkworm. Attention. This evolution will take significantly more time. The host is advised to find shelter. Shelter. Young-ho was already burrowing deeper into the soil, to where it was quiet, where he would not be found. He found a cavity beneath a large root of an old tree, spacious enough, enclosed on all sides. He curled up there and closed, as much as it applied to a worm, his eyes. The pain came more slowly than the first time, but it was deeper. Not in jerks, in waves. The body began to secrete something thick, dark, a obolochka enveloping him from the outside. A cocoon. He was pupating. His consciousness drifted, retaining clarity at the edge, while the body restructured into something fundamentally different. The last thing Jung-ho managed to think before his consciousness slipped into the half-sleep of evolution was that somewhere on the surface humans were walking, and sooner or later he would have to meet them. In a new form. In a form he had not yet seen. I wonder, he thought, will I be frightening? Darkness took him before he managed to answer himself. Jung-ho spent 3 days in the cocoon. He did not sleep. Or rather, he slept and did not sleep at the same time. His consciousness existed in a strange intermediate state, like between sleep and awakening, when you know you are lying in bed but cannot move. Sometimes he heard the world outside. Vibrations of the earth, the steps of animals above his head, once again those two-legged heavy footsteps of humans passing far to the side. Sometimes he heard nothing at all, only dark silence and the slow pulse of his own body restructuring from within. On the second day, visions began. Not dreams, something else. Fragments that did not belong to Park Jung-ho. A dark sky with 2 moons, one white, one crimson. An enormous forest whose trees reached into the clouds, their trunks wider than multi-story buildings. Beings, not humans, not beasts, moving between the trees with the ease of shadows. And something else, deeper. A sensation of hunger. Not his hunger, the hunger of the demonic nature itself, awakening in his cells. Ancient, dark, endless. These are not my memories, Jung-ho realized on the 3rd day. This is the echo of demonic blood. The genetic memory of the race I am becoming. Then the cocoon cracked. Not from the outside, from within. Jung-ho felt the dark obolochka give way under the pressure of something new, stronger. He pushed, and the cocoon split apart, releasing the damp, cold air of the underground cavity. He crawled out and froze. The body was different, radically different, at length about 80 centimeters. He determined that by how he fit within the cavity under the root, he now occupied it almost entirely. The front part, what had once been simply the head end of a worm, now had a more defined shape. Not a head in the human sense, but something like a thickening with 2 small protrusions at the sides. Budding limbs, tiny, useless for now, but existing. The surface of the body had changed. Not pinkish-gray soft flesh, but a dark, almost black, semi-transparent obolochka. Through it, in places where skills were concentrated, something faintly purple glowed, like veins of dark glass lit from within. Bioluminescence had changed. Before it gave a bluish light, weak, diffuse. Now the glow had become violet-black, pulsing, beautiful, and clearly frightening to anyone who might see it. Thermal vision had sharpened. The range increased, the detail improved. He saw through the soil above his head as through cloudy glass, blurred outlines of roots, stones, cavities, and not a single living creature within a radius of 5 meters. Good. The system notification appeared calmly, without fanfare. Evolution complete. Current form. Larva of a demonic silkworm, rank D. New traits. Demonic pressure, passive, rank D-. Weak aura of suppression, affects creatures of rank F and below, induces instinctive fear. Demonic obolochka, passive, rank D-, dark, semi-transparent covering, reduces physical damage by 25%, partially absorbs magical effects of weak levels. Limb buds, functionally useless at this stage, develop in the next evolution. Next evolution threshold, 2000 EP. Current EP, 0 out of 2000. Note, the host's demonic pressure will be perceived by living beings. Exercise caution when interacting with intelligent species. 2,000 points. Jung-ho digested that number slowly. From 100 to 500 he had climbed in a few days of active hunting. From 500 to 2,000 at the same pace. Weeks. Maybe more. A different strategy is needed, he decided. Larger prey. More dangerous hunts. He crawled out of the cavity and for the first time in 3 days felt the earth beneath his new body. Movement had changed. 80 centimeters of dark flesh moved differently than the previous 25-centimeter body. Slower, but more powerful. Each contraction pushed him forward with greater force. The budding limbs along the sides of the front part sometimes caught on roots, uncontrollably, instinctively. and this gave an additional point of support when turning. He crawled upward. The surface greeted him with twilight. The sky above the clearing was dark blue with a violet hue at the horizon. Sunset or dawn, he was not sure. Two moons hung above the trees, exactly like in the visions. One white, full, bright. The second smaller, crimson, with uneven edges like a shard of broken glass. At the sight of them, something in Young-ho's demonic nature responded. A quiet, deep, almost musical sensation. Like recognition. Interesting, he thought, noting the reaction and setting it aside. The demons of this world are somehow connected to the moons. Noted. Thermal vision unfolded over the clearing like a map. Small creatures. Insects, rodents, scattered sparks. Larger. 3 heat sources at the far edge of the forest, roughly where those cat-like predators had once lain. And one more source, large, powerful, motionless, right in the center of the clearing by the mossy rock. Young-ho crawled closer, remaining in the grass, and saw it with thermal vision before ordinary sight. A large creature about the size of a big dog lying curled around the rock. Then, normal vision, adapted to twilight, added details. The body was covered in coarse brown fur with bald patches where fur gave way to scales. The head was a mix of wolf and reptile. An elongated muzzle with 2 rows of teeth, small rigid crests along the skull. 4 paws with claws that left deep furrows in the ground, simply from the weight of the body. It was sleeping. Target analysis. Scaled wolf fox, rank D-. Danger to host, high. Potential EP upon devouring, 120 to 150. Target skills presumed. Enhanced sense of smell, armored scales, dash attack. Warning. Creature of rank D- exceeds the host's current combat rank. System recommendation, avoid until next evolution. 120 points minimum. That was 1/16 of what he needed. But it was the best he had seen. And it was sleeping. Young-ho watched the sleeping wolf fox for a long time. The demonic pressure within him pulsed quietly, not spilling outward. He had already learned to restrain it, for now, instinctively. Then, vibration sense triggered, not from the wolf fox but from another direction. Heavy, 2-legged footsteps. Again. Several humans, closer than last time. Young-ho wavered between 2 decisions for exactly 3 seconds. Then he chose. The humans first. The wolf fox would not go anywhere while it slept. And humans meant information. He moved away toward where the steps were coming from, keeping to the dense grass, pressing himself to the ground. There were 4 of them. He saw them with thermal vision first, 4 bright figures moving in a line across the clearing. Then, ordinary vision completed the picture. Young, he understood that from their movements, from their lightness. Not adult hunters, but rather teenagers or young people about 17 to 20 years old. 2 in identical clothing, something like a uniform, a dark blue tunic with some emblem on the shoulder. The third in leather armor with short swords at his belt. The fourth slightly behind the others, with a book in his hands, which he somehow managed to read while walking in the light of the white moon. They were talking, not loudly, but animatedly, clearly arguing about something. Young-ho caught the rhythm of speech, the intonations. One voice was irritated, the second conciliatory, the third inserted short remarks. The fourth was silent, not taking his eyes off the book. Language, Young-ho thought. I do not understand the language. That is a problem. The notification appeared as if in response to the thought. Quiet, without warning. Language absorption function detected. Skill available upon devouring a sentient being or upon prolonged contact with a language carrier. Recommendation. Observation and accumulation of linguistic patterns require significant time. Alternative. Devouring. System note. Devouring sentient beings is not recommended from an ethical standpoint. Decision rests with the host. From an ethical standpoint, Young-ho mentally smirked. The system cares about ethics. Good to know. He had no intention of devouring anyone. Observation meant observation. He followed the group of 4, keeping to the grass as they crossed the clearing. Then one of them, the one in leather armor, suddenly stopped sharply, extending a hand to the side to halt the others. He sensed something. Young-ho froze. The youth in armor slowly turned his head, scanning the grass. His hand rested on the hilt of his sword. His gaze swept over the darkest spot where Jung-ho lay, passed over it without stopping. Then the boy said something quietly, tensely, and one of those in the blue uniform responded, waving a hand. A flash of blue light flickered between his fingers, lasting half a second, then went out. A scanning spell. Jung-ho understood this instinctively. The spell passed over him. Passed over and did not react. The boy in the blue uniform communicated something to the others. By the tone, reassuring. The one with the sword glanced toward Jung-ho for another second, then removed his hand from the hilt. They continued onward, and that's when everything went off plan. The fourth, the one with the book, was last, passing by the bush behind which Jung-ho lay. He wasn't looking ahead, he was looking at the book. He tripped on a root, stumbled to the side, and the book flew from his hands, landing in the grass a meter from Jung-ho. The youth cursed. That was clear without translation, and bent down to retrieve the book. His face ended up half a meter from Jung-ho. For 2 seconds they looked at each other. Jung-ho saw a young face. Sharp cheekbones, dark tousled hair, glasses with thin metal frames, oddly out of place in a fantasy world. The eyes behind the lenses were brown, intelligent, and at that moment wide with shock. The youth's gaze swept over Jung-ho's body. The black, semi-transparent obolochka, the violet veins of light, the limb buds at the front. Then the youth screamed. Not quietly, loudly, desperately. The word he shouted Jung-ho did not understand. But the other three understood instantly. All four spun around sharply. The one with the sword drew both blades in a single motion. The two in blue uniforms raised their hands, and between their fingers the same blue flame danced, only much brighter now. The boy with the book leapt backward, holding the retrieved book like a shield, a useless gesture, but sincere. Jung-ho did not wait. He released demonic pressure for a fraction of a second, uncontrolled, letting it surge outward. That was enough. One of the mages in blue faltered. His spell flickered and died. Instinctive fear broke his concentration. That 1.5 seconds was all Jung-ho needed. He shot back into the grass, using his jump skill, now much stronger in his new body. 3 leaps, each covering almost 1.5 meters, threw him toward the burrow at the base of the old tree. He dove, went deeper. Voices above sounded excited, alarmed. Then the blue glow of spells swept across the surface. Jung-ho saw it with thermal vision as blurred flashes through the layer of soil. They were searching. A minute. 2. Then the voices began to recede quickly, clearly hurrying to leave the clearing. Jung-ho lay underground, listening to their footsteps fade into the distance. So this is how it works, he thought. They see me, and they see a monster. A dark, glowing creature of incomprehensible form with a demonic aura. Not a human. Not an ally. A threat. It made sense. It was correct from their point of view. But inside, something tightened. Not from resentment, but from the awareness of the distance. Between what he is now and what he wants to become, there was a vast chasm. He was Park Jung-ho. He was a human. And he was trapped in a body that people perceive as an enemy. Then I need to evolve faster, he decided. 2,000 points are needed. And I need to learn the language, at least the basics, through observation. When I get a humanoid form, I will need to speak. I cannot appear before humans mute. He returned to the task. The sleeping wolf fox waited. The hunt for the wolf fox took most of the night and nearly cost him his life. The first attempt failed. Jung-ho approached from the windward side, not accounting for the creature's enhanced sense of smell. The wolf fox woke instantly, leapt up, and struck with a paw before Jung-ho could react. The blow hit the front. The demonic shell softened it, but still threw Jung-ho half a meter back. He dove into the ground to evade the next strike and retreated. Lying underground, recovering, his muscle regeneration worked slowly but steadily. The shell at the point of impact was closing before his eyes, the violet veins pulsing more intensely. Good, he noted. Regeneration from his demonic nature had strengthened. But one hit like that, and I could have died. He needed to be smarter. The second attempt relied on his slime trail and acidic saliva. He laid a slime path around the wolf fox's resting spot while it dozed again, a wide circle covering all fast retreat paths. Then he approached from underground, rising from below, breaking through the thin layer of soil directly under the sleeping creature's belly. Acidic saliva aimed precisely at the soft spot beneath the front paw where there was no scale, and immediately back into the ground. The wolf fox roared. It lunged and hit the slime. Its paws slipped. It fell on its side. It surged in another direction. More slime. Young-ho did not allow it to recover, surfaced, applied more acid, back underground again. Venom from its poisonous glands added to the acid burns. The wolf fox weakened visibly. When the creature finally lay down, exhausted, breathing heavily with burns along its side, Young-ho emerged from the ground and finished the job. The notification was generous. Devouring complete. Target: Scaly Wolf Fox, rank D-. 144 evolution points gained. Skills acquired. Armored Scales, passive rank D-. Additional reinforcement of outer covering in areas of greatest stress. Dash attack, active rank D-. Sudden surge of all muscle mass in one direction. Speed reaches maximum for 2 seconds. Enhanced smell, passive rank D-. Perception of chemical traces up to 50 meters. Current EP, 144 out of 2,000. 144. Young-ho looked at the number without disappointment. He knew it would take a long time. He stretched out in the grass next to what remained of the wolf fox and let regeneration do its work. The sky above the clearing brightened. The white moon was lowering toward the horizon. The crimson one still hung high. Somewhere in the forest, a creature cried out, long, low, not threatening, simply alive. Young-ho thought about the 4 humans, about the youth with glasses who bent for the book and saw him, about the horror in the brown eyes behind the metal frames, and about the blue jackets with the emblem. He remembered its shape, though he couldn't make out the details. Something angular, symmetrical. A school emblem? A guild mark? In the fantasy manhwas he had read, there were usually academies, magical schools selecting the gifted. If I want to enter society, he thought slowly, watching the sky change color, I need a humanoid form. I need language. I need a story. Who I am, where I come from, why. A demon entering a magical academy is either nonsense or a precedent. In any case, it is the goal. The following weeks he hunted methodically and ruthlessly. He didn't attack everything indiscriminately. He was selective. He found a lair, studied habits, hunted using his full arsenal of skills simultaneously. The slime trail blocked retreat. Acidic saliva and venom wore down the prey. Dash attack, a new skill, allowed him to strike first before the target could react. He used demonic pressure precisely against rank F and E creatures. It caused a freeze for a second or two, enough time. After 10 days, the counter passed 700. The forest horned boar, rank D, gave 218 points and was the hardest yet. 3 hours of pursuit, 2 retreats underground, 1 moment when a tusk passed a centimeter from his body, and Young-ho realized he had almost become the prey himself. But the skills it yielded were worth it. Earth Shield, active rank D, temporary concentration of soil particles around the body, reducing incoming damage by 40% for 5 seconds. This was his first truly active defensive skill, and Young-ho immediately understood how his tactics would change. After 18 days, the counter showed 1,200, and then something happened he hadn't planned. He stumbled upon a village. Not immediately. At first he sensed it. Enhanced smell delivered a complex bouquet. Smoke, boiled meat, something sour, human sweat. Thermal vision revealed dozens of heat sources beyond the tree line, tightly clustered. Humans. Many humans. Living, sedentary lives. Young-ho crawled to the edge of the clearing and observed. The village was small, about 30 yards, no more. Wooden houses with thatched roofs, trampled paths between them. Fires burned despite the day, judging by the sun's position. People went about their business. A woman carried water in a wooden yoke. An old man repaired something by a fence. Children ran between houses. The most ordinary scenes, the most ordinary life. Young-ho watched from the grass at the edge of the clearing and felt something sharp and unpleasant. Not envy. Not longing. Something more complicated. I was part of this. I ate at the table with other people, walked on the sidewalk, looked at my phone. Now I watch them from the grass like a monster observing food. Then he saw a guard by the farthest house, a man about 40, in light armor, with a spear. He looked toward the forest, not anxiously, just scanning the surroundings. And suddenly his gaze stopped at the edge of the clearing, at the grass where Jung-ho lay. Too attentive a look for a casual glance, apparently experienced. He sensed something. Jung-ho didn't move. He kept his demonic pressure locked down tight, not a single release, but the guard kept looking. Then he shouted something toward the village, and from behind the house a second one appeared, then a third. All three were looking toward the forest. "We leave," decided Jung-ho. Slowly, without sudden movements, he backed deeper into the grass, toward the trees. The guards didn't move from their spots, continuing to watch. One of them raised a hand in a short motion, and a small orb of light flared above his palm, flying toward the forest like a signal rocket. Jung-ho dove underground the instant the orb reached the clearing and erupted in a bright flash. Beneath the earth, he heard cries, no longer three voices, more, and the pounding of many feet. The village had sounded the alarm. He moved deeper and faster, carving a path away from the village. Minutes later, heavy footsteps passed overhead, many of them, in a group. They were searching. A few minutes after that, the steps began to spread out, combing through the forest. Once, someone passed just a meter above his head, and Jung-ho pressed himself against the tree root, halting his breathing as much as his current physiology allowed. Then, everything fell silent. He lay in the darkness of the earth for a long while, thinking. So this is how the humans of this world operate, he reflected calmly, shelving detailed observations for later. Quick reaction. Organized. Magic employed even in a small village. Guards cast spells without hesitation. Aggressive response to the unknown. First alarm, then systematic search. They don't wait. They don't observe. That means when I gain a humanoid form, my first appearance must be controlled. No accidental exposure. I need to emerge somewhere on my terms, in a place where I'll have time to explain who I am before someone casts a spell at me. The counter read 1,382. 618 remained. Jung-ho crawled further from the village into denser, darker forest, where large prey dared enter because humans themselves feared it. He heard the system quietly register a new record. Host habitat changed. Dark forest detected. Category: dangerous zone. Minimum creature rank: E+. High potential for EO accumulation. Significant risk to host. He smirked internally, though his muscles weren't there yet for a real smile. Significant risk, he repeated to himself. Good, that means I'm going there. The dark forest greeted him with silence. True silence. Not the kind that happens when there are no sounds, but the kind that happens when everything around has gone still and is watching. The trees here were older and larger, trunks several spans around, roots rising above the ground like the ribs of giants. Between them, no ordinary grass grew, only moss, dark, almost black, and rare mushrooms with a pale glow. Thermal vision showed emptiness, not a single warm-blooded creature within a 10-meter radius. Either no one was here, or whatever was here was not warm-blooded. The second option was confirmed quickly. From the darkness between the roots, a creature emerged. Silently, like a shadow. Thermal vision did not react. Cold-blooded, or not alive in the usual sense. Normal vision distinguished it only when it was 5 meters away. Long, thin, resembling a praying mantis, but the size of a large dog. Instead of 2 front limbs, there were 4, each ending in a thin, sharp protrusion like a needle. The eyes were compound, huge, reflecting the pale light of the mushrooms. The target analysis: shadow mantis. Needle, rank D+. Cold-blooded, partially immaterial creature. Danger to host: very high. Potential EO if consumed: 280. Warning: the creature can shift into a partially immaterial state. Physical attacks are 50% less effective in this state. Weakness: magic of demonic nature. Magic of demonic nature. Jung-ho paused on this line. I have a demonic nature. Demonic pressure is an aura, not an attack. But if I have a demonic nature, then it contains a potential that the system has not yet revealed, or will reveal upon evolution. The mantis stared at him. It did not attack, it studied. Jung-ho stared back. Neither moved. Then the mantis swung and disappeared, literally dissolving into the shadow between 2 roots. Thermal vision was useless. Vibration sense was silent. Jung-ho spun on the spot, searching, and felt a prick from above. The needle passed through the demonic shell and entered the body. Not deeply. The shell slowed it, but painfully. The mantis attacked from above, jumping off the root above him. Earth shield instantly. A layer of compacted soil shot up around Jongho. The next two needles struck him and got stuck. A dash attack in the opposite direction, retreat. The mantis dissolved into the shadow again. Think, Jongho told himself, retreating under a root. It's immaterial. Physics doesn't fully work. Vulnerable to demonic nature, but I don't have offensive demonic magic. Not yet. But I do have something else. He released the demonic pressure. Not pinpointed, as before, completely. The entire demonic aura accumulated over weeks of hunting burst outward without limits. Purple veins of light flared, flooding the darkness under the roots. And the mantis, no matter what shadow it hid in, reacted. Immaterial creatures turned out to be sensitive to demonic aura. It made sense. They themselves were immaterial, and the immaterial interacts with the immaterial. The mantis materialized. Not voluntarily. It was thrown out of the shadow like a float thrown to the surface of water by a current. For a fraction of a second, it was completely material, disoriented. Acidic saliva into the compound eyes. Venom followed. Dash attack. The mantis did not manage to retreat into the shadow again. The devouring took longer than usual. The creature was larger than anything Jongho had eaten so far. But when the notification appeared, he read it for a long time, with something like admiration. Devouring complete. Target. Shadow Mantis Needle, rank D+. Received 248 evolution points. Skills acquired. Shadow Glide. Active rank D plus partial shift into immaterial state for 3 seconds. Physical attacks in this state are 60% less effective. Cooldown, 40 seconds. Needle Pierce, active rank D+, ejects sharp chitin needles from the front of the body, range 3 meters. Demonic Resonance, passive rank D, hosts demonic aura strengthened. Effectiveness against immaterial and shadow creatures plus 80%. Current EP, 1,630 out of 2,000. 1,630. 370 to next evolution. Jongho lay in the darkness of the dark forest, surrounded by the smell of moss and the pale glow of mushrooms, with the new skill of Shadow Glide pulsating in his body. Outside, it was quiet. The other inhabitants of the forest sensed the demonic pressure and kept their distance. He was alone for several dozen meters around. 370, he thought. That's not much. 2 or 3 more large creatures. Then evolution. Then the first step toward a human form. Then language, history, a plan. He raised his gaze, thermal vision directed upward, into the tree canopy, and saw something new. Large. Motionless. Warm. So warm-blooded, not like the mantis. It sat on a thick branch about 7 meters above the ground and looked down. Jongho stared back. Target analysis. Nightclaw Dragon, rank E+. A small nocturnal-type dragon. Potential EP if devoured, 80 to 120. Note, the creature was observing the host's hunt. Behavior atypical. Individuals of this species usually attack or retreat when detected. This individual observes. A small dragon, sitting on a branch watching him instead of attacking or fleeing. Interesting, Jongho thought. And he did not attack first. He lay and watched. The dragon sat and watched. Several minutes passed. Then the dragon made a sound, not a roar, not a hiss. Something low, melodic, almost questioning. Jongho could not respond. He did not have a voice, yet. But he released demonic pressure quietly, carefully. Not as a weapon, but like a kind of reply signal. The dragon fell silent. Then it spread its wings, small, membranous, dark, and silently flew deeper into the forest. It did not attack. It did not flee in panic. It flew away calmly. Jongho watched it go and thought about something he could not yet put into words. About how this world was more complex than it seemed. About how not everything in it operates on hunter-prey logic. About how the demonic nature in him was not only a weapon, but also something like a language. A different language, not human, but a language. He returned to hunting. 370 points remained, and somewhere ahead, the next evolution. The next step toward a form that would allow him to speak, think aloud, exist among humans. He almost felt its future form. Dark, tall, with hands and a voice. Demonic, yes. But his. Not much left, Pak Zhongho thought, moving through the darkness of the dark forest. Not much at all. He had earned 370 points in 2 days. The dark forest turned out to be richer than he expected. Not in terms of safety. Every creature here was more dangerous than the previous, and every hunt required full concentration. But that was exactly what produced results. Armored Centipede, rank D+, 93 points, and Skill Chitin Regeneration, passive rank D+. External covering recovery speed doubled. Double Shadow Cat, rank D+, 108 points, and Skill Silhouette Split, active rank D+. Creates one illusory copy of the body for 5 seconds. The copy does no damage but draws the target's attention. The last 169 points were earned from a flock of small flying leeches, rank E+, 8 to 12 points each, and he chased them through the forest for almost an hour, exhausting them one by one. When the counter passed 2,000, Zhongho was deep underground in a spacious cavity he had specially expanded beneath the roots of the oldest tree in the dark forest. He had prepared in advance. He knew evolution would take time. He knew he would be defenseless during the process. The system notification appeared without extra words. Evolution available. Current EP, 2047 out of 2000. Attention to host. This evolution is pivotal. The host will receive humanoid traits for the first time. The process is irreversible and will take significantly more time than previous evolutions. The host is strongly advised to ensure a safe shelter for a period of 3 to 5 days. Only one evolutionary path is available within the host's demonic path. The only path. Zhongho read the description slowly. Path. Demonic Licanar, first stage of humanoid. Rank C-. Body acquires basic humanoid structure. Upright, bipedal, with 2 functional arms. Height. Approximately 140 to 160 centimeters. Appearance. Dark skin with purple veins of demonic energy, non-human facial features, glowing eyes. Voice. Functional. Speech, possible. New characteristics. Demonic manifest. Active rank. C-. Concentration of demonic energy into a pinpoint burst. Basic offensive ability. All previously acquired skills are retained and adapted to the new form. Next evolution threshold. 10,000 EP. Warning. Humanoid form significantly increases the host's visibility to humans and other intelligent beings. Behavioral adaptation recommended. Zhongho reread one word several times. Voice. Functional. Speech possible. He didn't think that one word could hit him so hard. Several weeks without a voice, without the ability to say even a single thing, to shout, to answer. Several weeks of existence in complete communicative isolation. And now the system calmly reports, speech possible. Begin, he directed his intent to the system. Then he added inwardly, no longer to the system but to himself. Finally, evolution started. Path. Demonic Licanar. Warning. This process is significantly more painful than the previous ones. Host. Prepare yourself. The pain did not come immediately. It grew. First, warmth spreading from the center of the body to the edges. Then pressure, as if something from inside was pushing the shell, demanding more space. Then changes began that Zhongho felt differently than before, not as a transformation of flesh, but as something deeper. The body was restructuring on a level that is difficult to describe in words. Something straightened. Something lengthened. Where the buds of limbs had been, something real now grew, with pain and cracking, with the sensation that each bone of the new hand was forming separately and sequentially. He lost consciousness on the second day, simply shut down and drifted in the darkness while his body did its work without the involvement of his mind. He dreamed, or saw, the same visions as during the second evolution. Dark sky with 2 moons. Forest. Creatures moving like shadows. But now the picture was clearer, more detailed. He saw their faces, if they could be called faces. Sharp features, dark skin, glowing eyes in shades from violet to crimson. Tall, thin, with movements simultaneously fluid and precise. They did not notice him, or pretended not to, living their own lives in that dark forest of two moons. This is my race, Jong-ho realized in the dream. What I am becoming. On the fifth day, the cocoon cracked from the inside. Jong-ho struck with his hands. Real hands, with fingers, with joints, with palms, which he felt as his own for the first time in the time he had spent in this world. The cocoon split easily, shedding dark scales. He stood up. It took effort. The body was new, the center of gravity different. The muscles did not yet know how to work together. He swayed, pressed his palm against the wall of the earthen cavity, and straightened. Slowly. One vertebra at a time. Then he stood and simply breathed with lungs. Real lungs, through his nose and mouth. Inhale. Exhale. It was him. He could not find a better word. This was like coming home after a very long and very strange journey. Then he raised his hands and looked at them. Dark. Almost black. Not like coal, but like deep night, with a slight bluish sheen. The skin was smooth, dense, and beneath it, purple veins of demonic energy shimmered faintly, like veins glowing from within. Fingers long, 5 on each hand, normal, usual, human-like. Nails pointed, dark, not claws but close. He clenched a fist, muscles obeyed, released, moved each finger separately. It works. The system notification appeared calmly. Evolution complete. Current form. Demonic Licanar, rank C-. Height, 152 centimeters. All previous skills adapted to the new form. New skills. Demonic Manifest, active rank C-. Concentration of demonic energy into a shockwave or pinpoint burst. Range, up to 5 meters. Cooldown, 20 seconds. Vocal cords, functional. Speech, available. Note, the host's appearance differs significantly from human. It is recommended to control demonic pressure when in contact with humans. Vocal cords, functional. Jong-ho opened his mouth. He tried to say something. The first thing that came to mind, just to test. And the voice came out hoarse, broken, like a person with tonsillitis multiplied by 10. But it came out. Anyong, a Korean greeting. The first word he had spoken in this world. He did not even understand why it was this word, probably because it was the first word he had said in that life, when he was little and learning to speak. His mother had taught him. He did not linger on that thought. He swallowed. His throat worked fine, and began moving toward the exit of the cavity. Getting to the surface in the new body was unexpectedly difficult. Not physically. Hands and legs worked, the body obeyed. But the scale had changed. The burrow he had dug underground was sized for 80 centimeters of dark flesh, not 152 centimeters of a humanoid. He had to work with his hands, digging the soil, widening the passage. Another new experience. The hands knew how to dig instinctively, as if it had been built into the new body from the start. He emerged to the surface of the dark forest in the pre-dawn twilight. He stood on his feet among moss and the glow of mushrooms, among huge roots and silence. He straightened fully for the first time in all his time in this world, stood on 2 legs. He lifted his head and looked up through the tree canopy at the pale sky. The crimson moon hung on the horizon, almost touching the treetops. The white moon had already set. Something in Jong-ho's demonic nature responded to the crimson moon. Quietly, naturally, like a normal person reacts to the smell of coffee in the morning. Just part of his new existence. He took a few steps, uncertain at first, then increasingly confident. The body adapted quickly. Apparently, basic motor patterns were built into the new form. He passed between 2 massive roots, stepped over a fallen trunk, stopped at a small forest stream. He looked at his reflection. The reflection looked back. A dark face, human features but altered. Sharp cheekbones, pointed chin, straight nose. Ears almost human but slightly elongated upward with sharp tips. Hair black, with a dark violet sheen, short, sticking out in all directions. The eyes were the most inhuman part. Irises violet, no sclera, all space around the pupil filled with violet light. Under the facial skin, the same veins as on his hands. Thin, shimmering. Not human. Definitely not human. But the face. His face. The first face he had had all this time. Jong-ho stared at his reflection for a long time. Then he spoke loudly, in full voice, testing it as an instrument after long silence. Park Jong-ho, 23 years old, died on Iljiro on Friday at 11:47. The voice was deeper than the one he had in his previous life. Slightly hoarse, not unpleasant, with a faintly inhuman overtone. Now a demonic Lycanar, rank C-, without a name in this world. He paused. A name was needed. He thought about it for a long time. The name had to work in this world, sound natural, not raise unnecessary questions. A Korean name here was meaningless. A different world, a different language. But he still didn't know the local language well enough to come up with a name in it. For now, Jun, he said at last. Just Jun. Short, neutral, part of his real name. For now, Jun. The system responded unexpectedly. Host name registered, Jun. Identifier updated. He didn't know the system tracked such things, but for some reason it felt nice. For the next 3 days, Jun spent time on the border of the dark forest and the ordinary one, getting used to the new body. Learning to walk normally, not shuffle, not sway. Learning to control his hands. Fine motor skills came surprisingly easily. Apparently, muscle memory from his past life was built into the new nervous system. Learning to control the demonic pressure. Now it manifested differently, not just as an aura, but as something directed. He could compress it into a point or release it in a wave. He could make it almost imperceptible if he wished. He studied the demonic manifest cautiously, trying it on a tree. Concentration of energy in the palm, release. The tree bark cracked, leaving a deep, charred mark. Not bad for a basic attack. Recharge 20 seconds. Long, but the skill would clearly grow with the next evolutions. Shadow sliding in the new body worked differently. Before he would dissolve entirely into the ground and shadow. Now only partially. It would be more accurate to call it translucency. The body became blurred, fuzzy, like a poorly focused image. Physical attacks in this state passed through him not completely, but with noticeably reduced damage. On the 4th day, he went to the village. Do not approach. Observe. He lay down in thick bushes at the edge of the forest, using the split silhouette as additional insurance. An illusory copy of his silhouette flickered to the side, distracting attention if someone looked in his direction. He lay there for several hours listening. The language was beginning to form patterns. He had been hearing it for several weeks through the soil, as vibrations indistinctly. Now he heard it clearly, with details. The brain of Park Jun-ho, the person who had learned English, a bit of Chinese, able to catch language structures, began automatically breaking down what he heard into elements. Short words repeated more often, function words, pronouns, basic verbs, long nouns, names. He heard a woman calling a child. One word, repeated with the same intonation. A name. He heard a man giving instructions to a worker. 3 words, an imperative construction. He heard 2 old people arguing by a fence for a long time, with gestures, and was able to pick out a word that each repeated in their favor. Something related to the subject of the dispute apparently. The word denoted either the object or the action that needed to be done to it. The system helped. Language pattern. Accumulation function active. Progress, 4%. Basic level of understanding. Approximately 200 hours of observation. Acceleration possible with direct interaction with native speakers. 200 hours, that's long. But the system said acceleration is possible with interaction. That means contact is needed, controlled contact, in which he would not be killed immediately. On the 5th day of observation, Jun saw what he had been looking for. A lone traveler emerged from the village. A man of about 50, with a knapsack over his shoulder and a staff. He was walking along the road away from the village, judging by the direction, toward another settlement or city. He walked alone, without guards. He moved confidently, clearly knowing the way. Jun followed him at a distance of 200 meters, staying in the forest along the road, studying. The man was not a warrior. The staff was just a staff, no signs of weapons. Not a mage, no glow, no aura. Just a person going about his business. After an hour of walking, the man stopped at a small stream to drink, to rest. sat on a rock, took off the knapsack, took out something wrapped in cloth. Food. Ate calmly, looking at the water. Jun stepped out of the forest. Not abruptly, slowly, openly, keeping his hands slightly spread to the sides. A universal gesture. I am not attacking, I am unarmed. He stepped onto the road about 20 meters from the man and stopped. The man saw him immediately. Jumped up, the food fell into the grass. Grabbed the staff with both hands, stepped back a pace. Looked at Jun with wide eyes, at the dark skin, the violet eyes, the veins under the skin. Jun did not move. Waited. Held the demonic pressure locked as tightly as he could. The man shouted something. One word, sharp, questioning. Clearly, who are you or what do you want? Jun opened his mouth. Thought for a second. Then spoke slowly, clearly. The only phrase in the language of this world he had managed to learn in 5 days of observation. It was clumsy, the accent was terrible, but the words were correct. He had heard them from the villagers enough times to remember the pronunciation, I am not an enemy. The man froze. He looked at him. Then carefully, without lowering the staff, he said something else. Shorter. A question. Jun didn't understand, shook his head, showing he didn't get it. Then he pressed his palm to his chest and repeated, Jun. A pause. The man looked for a long time, then very slowly lowered the staff. Did not drop it, held it by his side. Pressed his own palm to his chest. Saom. A name. He said a name. Jun nodded. Something like relief passed through him, quiet, warm. The first contact. Not perfect, not equal. The man was clearly scared and ready to run at any moment. But he didn't run. He said the name. The next hour was the strangest and richest since he had arrived in this world. So Meng, the merchant, as Jun understood from gestures and fragments of words, was walking to the city and clearly had no intention of changing his route despite meeting a dark, demon-like creature. Strange courage, or habit. Merchants see all kinds of things. They walked side by side cautiously at a distance of 3 steps. And so Meng spoke. A lot. Jun understood at most 1 word in 10, but nodded and listened, absorbing every sound. The system recorded progress. Accumulation of language patterns 9%. Acceleration through interaction confirmed. When they reached the fork where the road split, Meng stopped. He pointed one way, said something, then pointed at Jun and repeated the same direction with a questioning intonation. You go there? Jun didn't know where he needed to go. He shrugged. Then he remembered something. Those 4 young people with emblems on their jackets he had seen in the clearing. He remembered the emblem's shape. Angular, symmetrical. He tried to draw it in the air with his finger. So Meng looked at his drawing. Something changed in his face. His eyebrows rose. A flicker between surprise and respect appeared in his eyes. He spoke a few words slowly, clearly, as if he understood that the interlocutor didn't speak his language. Then he pointed in the same direction he had been going and added something else, using a gesture to show something large and tall. Jun understood enough. The academy was that way, in the city or nearby. He nodded. So Meng made an inviting gesture. Let's go. And they continued along the road together. The merchant kept talking, now less tensely. Occasionally he pointed at objects along the road and named them. Jun repeated. So Meng corrected his pronunciation patiently, without irritation, with the air of someone simply curious. By sunset the city appeared ahead. It was visible from afar, towers above the treetops, smoke from dozens of hearths, lights beginning to turn on as it darkened. Large. Significantly bigger than the village. Guards stood at the gates. Jun saw them with thermal vision long before they were close enough to make out details. So Meng said something to him seriously, with emphasis. Pointed at the gates, then at Jun, then made a gesture lowering his palms as if saying, Stay low, don't stick out. Then he threw something over him from the knapsack, a long travel cloak with a hood, faded, gray, clearly from spare merchandise. Jun put it on, pulled the hood over. Most of his appearance was hidden in the shadow of the hood. Dark skin was less noticeable. He suppressed the veins with effort. He couldn't remove them completely, but reduced their brightness to a minimum. So Meng looked him over critically. Said one word. June didn't understand, but the intonation was approving. Then they went to the gates. The guard stopped them. Quick, routine questions. So Mang answered easily, clearly knowing the routine. He pointed at June, said something short. One of the guards leaned slightly to the side, trying to peek under the hood. June looked straight ahead, did not move, keeping the pressure locked at 0. A guard asked him something directly. June replied with the only phrase he knew well enough. I am not an enemy. A pause. The guard looked at him for a second, then said something to Saom, who shrugged with the expression of someone saying something like, he's a little strange but harmless. The guard waved them through. They entered the city. June walked along the street of the first city in this world, looking at everything at once, at the gray stone houses, at the signs above the shops, at people hurrying about their business, at lanterns with living flames along the roadway, at children running between adults, at an old man selling something from a stall, at 2 mages in blue cloaks, not like the 4 from the clearing, adults walking on the other side of the street. The city lived. Ordinary evening life. No one looked at him twice. The hooded cloak made him one of many traveling passers-by, so Mang led him to an inn. Talked with the owner for a long time, gesturing. Then turned to June and showed him a small room on the first floor. Then pointed to himself, to June, to the table in the common hall. We'll have dinner together. At dinner, hot food. The first real meal since arriving in this world, although the stomach of a demonic guy's worked differently than a human one, and the need for food was smaller. So Mang took something unexpected from the knapsack. A notebook. Opened it to a blank page, took charcoal for writing. Wrote a word, showed it to June, pronounced it aloud. June repeated. So Mang nodded, wrote the next word. They continued like this almost until midnight. The merchant, on his way to the city on business, had accidentally met a demon-like creature on the road and was now sitting and teaching him words of his language patiently, methodically, with the air of someone genuinely interested. June never understood why So Mang was helping him. Maybe the merchant had something of his own in mind. Maybe he was just that kind of person. By the end of the evening, the system recorded accumulation of language patterns 23%. Basic vocabulary, about 300 words. Understanding of simple phrases 70%. Speech production 30%. Recommendation, continue learning. Before sleep, alone in the small room, June lay on a wooden bed, the first bed since arriving, and thought about the academy. That emblem he had drawn in the air had caused a distinct reaction in Saom, respect and surprise at the same time. That meant the place was known. That meant getting there would not be easy. So he needed more language, more strength, more understanding of this world. 10,000 points to the next evolution, to a form even closer to human. But even without the next evolution, he could already speak, could already interact, could already learn. He closed his violet eyes. The veins under his skin shimmered faintly in the darkness of the room. The academy, thought Pak Jun-ho, who was now June, who had died at the crossroads of Yuljiro, had been reborn as a worm, became a demon, and lay on a wooden bed in a strange world. First language, then a story they would believe. Then the academy. Outside the window, city lanterns burned. Somewhere high above the rooftops in the dark sky hung a crimson moon. June fell asleep under its light and thought that perhaps he did have a plan. So Mang left in the morning. Before leaving, he left the notebook on the table, the same one with the written words, and added several more pages filled during the night while June slept. Basic phrases, numbers, names of professions. At the bottom of the last page, he wrote something separately and circled it. June read it syllable by syllable, comparing it with the words he had already learned. Cheonwan Academy. Northern District. Good luck. June stared at these words for a long time, then folded the notebook and tucked it under his cloak. Cheonwan Academy. Now the goal had a name. He spent the next 2 weeks in the city. Not hiding, but not attracting unnecessary attention either. The hooded cloak became his constant appearance. The city was called Saom. He figured this out on the 3rd day, hearing the name often enough to connect it with the gestures of people indicating the surrounding space. medium-sized by the standards of this world, about 20,000 residents, commercial, with a market in the center and several districts of different focus. The smithing district clanged from dawn. The trade district smelled of spices and leather. The northern one, the one Saom had circled in the notebook, was quieter and cleaner than the others. The houses there were more solid, the streets wider. June worked with the language continuously. He listened to conversations in the market. It was easiest there. The merchant spoke loudly, clearly, repeating prices and names of goods several times. He listened to arguments at the taverns in the evenings. He listened to street heralds reading something at the city board in the mornings. Slowly, ceremoniously, exactly at the pace needed for learning. The system recorded progress. Accumulation of language patterns 41%, then 58, then 72. On the 10th day, he entered a full conversation for the first time. The innkeeper, a stocky man of about 45 named Pak Iru, taciturn, businesslike, collected payment for lodging every morning and each time looked at June with the same expression. "You're strange, but you have money, so live." June had gotten money on the 4th day. He found it in a dark alley near the body of a drunkard who had dropped his wallet and couldn't find it. Jun picked up the wallet, shook it over the drunkard's head. The man mumbled something and dropped it again. Jun left most of the money next to him and took exactly enough for a few days of lodging. On the 10th day, Pak Iru asked him habitually, not expecting an answer, where he was from. And Jun answered. Slowly, with pauses. With incorrect word order in some places. But he answered. Said that he had come from the forest, that he was looking for the academy, that he wanted to study. Pak Iru looked at him for about 3 seconds, then asked why the academy. June thought. Said because he wanted to understand this world. Pak Iru snorted. Said something quickly. June caught only half. The meaning was roughly this. Cheonwan Academy does not take just anyone. There are entrance exams. The best from all over the country go there. Then he added something else, nodding at Jun with the look of someone stating the obvious, and Jun understood it as, and certainly they don't take people like you. Not harshly. Just a fact from his point of view. Jun nodded. Thanked him. Returned to the room. Lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Entrance exams. He had expected something like this. In every manhwa he had read, academies did not open their doors to the first stranger. But the scale of the problem was bigger than it seemed. Language. He was almost there. 1 more week, and he could speak freely. Appearance. The cloak solved it superficially, but during the exams they would definitely ask him to remove the hood. Documents. In this world, some kind of identity registration system clearly existed. History. Who he was. Where from. What family. Who taught him. No documents, no history, no family, no teacher. But he had skills. Real combat skills. Rank C- and below. And the demonic manifest, which he had not fully developed yet. And shadow sliding. And thermal vision, which would give a monstrous advantage in the exams. So, each problem had to be solved separately, he thought methodically. Documents. Find out how they work in this world and either get them legally or bypass the issue. History. Invent a credible one. Appearance. Cheonwan Academy, judging by Saom's and Pek's reactions, accepts different races or not. Need information. Exams. Find out exactly what they test. He got up and went to the market. Information at the market was the cheapest. You just had to ask correctly. He found an old man selling scrolls and books, a battered stall, piles of dusty bindings, and bought 3 things. A phrase book with basic local grammar rules, a thin book with regional maps, and quite unexpectedly, a 3rd brochure in a blue cover with that same angular symmetrical emblem. Cheonwan Academy. Information for applicants. He paid without bargaining, although the old man had clearly tripled the price when he noticed the interest under the hood. He returned to the room and read until dark, going over difficult phrases several times and checking them against the phrasebook. By nightfall, the picture had formed. Cheonwan Academy, the largest educational institution in the kingdom of Soren, founded more than 300 years ago. Accepts gifted students from across the kingdom once a year, in the first month of autumn. Entrance exams consist of 3 stages. The first is theoretical, testing basic knowledge of magic and martial arts. The second is practical, a demonstration of abilities before a commission. The third is a personal interview with one of the senior instructors. There are no racial restrictions. The brochure explicitly states, "The Academy accepts all races recognized as intelligent in the Kingdom of Soran." A list is provided: humans, elves of 2 subspecies, dwarves, half-bloods, and at the end of the list one short word that June read twice: demons. Demons are on the list of permitted races. He closed the brochure and just breathed for several seconds. So it's possible. There is precedent. Demons have attended this academy. Rarely, judging by the fact that the word is at the end of the list, but they have. Documents. The brochure described this separately. A registration seal from the city scribe is required. The scribe enters the identity into the registry and issues a document. For citizens of the kingdom, it is a standard procedure. For foreigners and beings without a permanent residence, the procedure is more complicated and requires a guarantor. A guarantor. A person who confirms your identity. Jun thought about this for a long time. Then he remembered how Saom had talked with the guards at the gates, how he said something short and confident, and the guards let them through. A merchant with a reputation, a merchant known in the city. But Saom had left 3 days ago to an unknown destination. But Pak Iru remained. The innkeeper. The one who said people like you are not accepted, but had calmly rented him a room for 10 days already. Jun went downstairs. Pak Iru was sitting at the counter, counting something in a notebook. Lifted his gaze habitually, without surprise. A demon in a hood living on the first floor had become part of the ordinary scenery. Jun sat across from him, placed the academy brochure on the counter. Then the wallet with money, not skinny. Looked at Pak. "I need a guarantor," he said. Slowly but correctly, he had practiced this phrase an hour ago in the room. "I will pay." Pak Iru looked at the brochure, at the wallet, at Jun, snorted. "You're serious about the academy?" "Yes." A long pause. Pak drummed his fingers on the counter, thinking. Then he said something Jun did not expect. "Put the money away." Pause. "I had a student. 3 years ago. Took the entrance exams for Cheonwan. Didn't pass the second stage." Another pause, heavier. "He was a good kid." Jun waited. "If you pass the entrance exams," Pak said slowly, "I will be your guarantor. If you don't pass, no conversation." Jun nodded. "When are the exams?" "In 6 weeks." Pak closed the notebook. "Too little time for you." "I know," said Jun. "But enough." Pak looked at him for another second, then returned to his calculations. The conversation was over. Jun stood and went back to the room. 6 weeks. Language. 1 more week for fluent speech, then reading and writing. History. Need a credible legend, verifiable in the interview. Combat skills. Need to understand exactly what is shown in the second stage of the exams and prepare a demonstration. Theoretical part. Buy textbooks and read. 6 weeks. He broke the tasks down by day and began. The first week was spent on language and books. He read everything he could buy or borrow from Pak. The innkeeper unexpectedly turned out to be a reader, with a small personal library in a closet behind the counter. He gave books without questions, just nodded toward the shelf. Take. History of the Kingdom of Soran. Basics of Magic Theory for Beginners. Martial Arts, Basic Course. Bestiary of Local Creatures. Jun read this book with particular interest, recognizing in the descriptions those he had hunted in the forest. By the end of the first week, he spoke fluently. Not beautifully, with an accent, sometimes with incorrect stress, but fluently. He could read almost without difficulty. He wrote slowly. The letters came out angular but legible. The system noted accumulation of language patterns 91%, functional level achieved. Magic theory came unexpectedly easily. Not because he was smart, although Pa Jun-ho had been a decent student in that life, but because the system had already given him practical experience of what the textbooks described theoretically. Magic in this world was divided into elemental, fire, water, earth, air, and several derivatives, and systemic, which included body enhancement, healing, and several exotic branches. Demonic energy in the textbooks was called dark affinity and was classified as systemic magic with a note. Rare, unstable, requires special training approach. Unstable. That was fair. The demonic manifest still sometimes produced different results with the same effort. The same movement could result in a weak discharge or a powerful wave, depending on condition, concentration, or something else he did not yet fully understand. In the second week, he began training outside the city. Found a suitable place, an old quarry 2 kilometers from the walls of Saom, long abandoned, with vertical stone walls and enough space to work. I went there at dawn, before the city woke up, and worked for 2 to 3 hours, practiced the demonic manifesto, achieved stability by the middle of the second week. Finally understood what affects power. Concentration is not on effort, but on intention. Not to hit harder, but where exactly and why. When I switched to this, the result became predictable. Shadow sliding in humanoid form worked differently than before. The body became semi-transparent not all at once, but in layers, starting from the outer shell. He learned to control the depth. Surface sliding gave a blur effect. Full sliding almost complete invisibility for 3 seconds. He could not reduce the 40-second cooldown. It was a skill limitation, not practice. But 3 seconds of full invisibility at the right moment is a lot. Dash attack in humanoid form turned into something impressive. Before it was a throw of the whole body mass in one direction. Now the same, but on 2 legs, with choice of direction and the ability to change trajectory midway. The speed was such that the first few times he crashed into the quarry wall, unable to stop in time. He learned to break through shadow sliding at the moment of contact, allowing the body to partially pass through the obstacle. In the third week, he faced a problem he did not expect. Pak Iru called him in the evening and without preamble said, "They are talking in the city about a dark creature seen at the quarry at dawn. The guards are worried." June looked at him. "Is that you training there?" Pak asked. Silence. "Clear," said Pak. He drummed his fingers. "The guards will go to the quarry in 2 days to check. If they find serious traces, they will announce a hunt." "Understood," said Jun. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," cut in Pak. "Just don't let me down in the trials." June changed location. He went further into the forest, not the dark one, the regular one, east of the city. He found a deep ravine not visible from the road. He trained there more carefully, controlling the scale. He no longer used the demonic manifesto at full power, only pinpoint exercises on concentration without destructive effect. In the fourth week, he focused on history. This was the hardest part. Not to invent a story, but to invent a convincing story that could withstand scrutiny from a smart person in an interview. He thought about it for several days, separately from everything else, composing and discarding options. Option 1. A demon from a distant clan came to study because the clan sent him. The problem: if the academy has teachers who know demonic clans, any invented name would fail. Option 2. A demon without a clan. An outcast. Plausible, but raises questions about the past that are hard to fill. Option 3, and he settled on it after 3 days, was as close to the truth as possible. Not the whole truth, but close. He would say that his memory is damaged, that he remembers himself only from the moment of awakening in the forest, without a past, without a clan, without a name, except what he gave himself. That he came to the academy because he wants to understand who he is and what he can do. That he has a dark affinity and doesn't know how to work with it properly. This is almost the truth. Rebirth, damaged memory. Forest, place of awakening. Absence of a clan, fact. Dark affinity, fact. The only lie is the omission that he is a person from another world, reborn in a worm and evolved into a humanoid. He decided to keep this part to himself. The fifth week brought an unexpected gift. Applicants arrived in Saom. Not locals, but from other cities and regions, traveling to the Cheonwan Academy, which was located in the kingdom's capital, 3 days' journey from Saom. Pak's inn filled with young people carrying satchels and ambitions. June watched them from a corner of the common hall, listening as they discussed the upcoming trials, boasted of their abilities, and got nervous. One conversation caught his attention in particular. 2 guys, judging by their uniforms, were already academy students returning after the holidays, discussing the second stage of the trials. They spoke loudly enough. Jun listened carefully, showing no interest. The second stage is not just a demonstration of abilities. The commission pairs applicants and observes a sparring session. Not to victory, but until the first significant difference in level. They evaluate not strength but control, tactics, understanding of one's capabilities. Those who go full force from the first second fail. Those who show they can think in battle pass. Control and tactics, not strength. This was good news, because one of the few advantages of several weeks living in the forest in a body significantly weaker than most around him was the ability to think before acting. It had ingrained in him at a reflex level. 3 days before the departure to the capital, Pek Iru called Jun to the little room behind the counter. Sat down, looked straight at him. They conduct the interview harshly, he said. Senior instructor, Lady Han Soyen. She has run the third stage for 20 years. They say she sees lies the way I see dust on a shelf. Jun waited. I don't know your story, Pike continued. And I don't want to know. But if you go to that interview, go with something you won't be ashamed to repeat twice. Don't make up extra. She asks questions until she finds where you stumble. Thank you, said Jun. Pak nodded, got up, then stopped at the door and said, without turning, quietly, as if to himself, that was my student. He failed because he lied in the interview. He said his magic was stronger than it really was. Thought it would be better that way. Pause. Han Soyen didn't expel him. She gave him a chance to tell the truth. He couldn't. He left. The door closed. Jun sat alone in the little room for a few more minutes. Then he stood and began packing his things for the journey. The next morning, they left Saom in a small group of applicants who had banded together for safety on the road. Pak Iru did not go. He personally handed Jun a sealed envelope with registration documents and a letter of guarantee and shook his hand. Firmly, like you shake a human's hand, not a creature's. The journey took 3 days. Jun rode silently most of the way, observing his companions, listening to conversations, continuing to expand his language skills. Among the applicants were different types. 3 clearly from wealthy families with expensive gear and confident manners. 2 more modest from the provinces, sticking together. A girl traveling alone in a simple cloak with a long bow on her back, quiet, observant. She glanced at Jun several times from under her hood. Not in fear, but with curiosity. On the second day, during a river rest stop, she sat next to him. Dark affinity? She asked directly without preamble. She nodded at a barely noticeable purple shimmer under his cloak collar. He had lost control for a second, dozing off. Jun closed his collar, looked at her. Yes, he said. Rare, she said. Not with admiration, just as a statement. My name is Lee Aram. Elemental affinity, wind and a little fire. Churim province. Jun, he replied. I don't know from where. She looked at him with the same curiosity as before. Then she shrugged, accepted it, and took food from her satchel. Ate, cleaned up, stood to leave. Then turned back. In the second stage, pairs are chosen randomly, she said. But the commission watches how you react in the first 3 seconds of the fight. Not the attack, but what you do before the attack. My brother told me he enrolled 3 years ago. She left. Jun watched her go. The information was useful. First 3 seconds. Evaluation. That means they see reflex. What you do before you start thinking. Good, he thought. My reflex is observation. 3 seconds of observation before acting. That is my style. On the third day, the road brought them to a hill, and below, the capital opened up. Jun stopped the horse, took one rented from Pak to return after the trials, and looked. The city was enormous. Not by the standards of the world Pak Junho came from. He lived in Seoul, 12 million people. But by the standards of this world, this was the capital without a doubt. White stone walls, towers above them. And in the northern part of the city, separately, behind its own walls, a complex of buildings visible even from this distance, clearly of a different architecture, stricter, taller, with blue roofs, Cheonwan Academy. Someone from the group behind whispered its name. With that mix of awe and fear, Jun already knew how to read on people's faces in this world. He pushed that feeling aside. looked at the complex soberly as the next stage of the task. Not a goal to admire, a tool, a place where he would master the language, understand this world, gain allies, gather information, a place from which the next part would begin. "Let's go," said Lee Aram from behind him. He spurred the horse forward. The road led straight down from the hill, wide, trampled by thousands of feet before him and after. Stone pillars stood along the edges, engraved with words. He read them on the move, one by one. The Academy's motto, repeated again and again on every pillar. Strength without understanding is an animal. Understanding without strength is a shadow. Cheonwan Academy trains those who have both. Jun read this 3 times while descending the hill. Then he passed through the city gates, and the bustle of admission day swallowed him. Queues, registration, allocation to temporary rooms, announcements read by heralds at every intersection. The trials began tomorrow morning. First stage, theory. Second, combat. Third, interview with Han Soyeon. In the evening, Jun sat in a small room of temporary lodging for applicants and looked out the window at the blue roofs of the academy. Veins under his skin shimmered evenly, calmly. So Mang's notebook lay on the table next to him. He had carried it with him the entire way. He opened it to the last page. Cheonwan Academy, Northern District. "Good luck." "Thank you," he said aloud. Quietly, to the room, the notebook, the merchant who had long gone his own way. Then he closed the notebook. Lay down. Closed his violet eyes. Tomorrow, the trials would begin.